don't have just anybody on the Money Makers. We're going to talk about the country's most Instagrammed burger. I can't believe I just said that. But RocoMamas is taking advantage of the American election with their new burger campaign, but its founder also knows a lot about finding niches. He started a brand with just 3 restaurants in Joburg 18 months ago. He then found himself a partner with fairly quick service restaurant group experience, and he got into the Spur group. It's now grown to over 46 locations countrywide. He's growing at the same sort of rate as Pepcor's growing in Poland, and that's really fast. This is The Money Makers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight, I'm joined by Brian Aldrich, who is the founder and owner, co-owner, I guess, of RocoMamas, because you got the 3 RocoMamas stores, and then Pierre Fantonda from Spur came knocking on your door and said, I like what you do, and he knew you because you were a Spur franchisee. It's beautifully incestuous.
Yeah, it is. I think I spoke to the guys before, obviously, Pierre and the team, that I wanted to do something. I saw a gap in the market for fast casual. It's become very big in the last decade in the USA and in the UK.
What is the difference? Okay, there's quick service where you go to a counter and you order a hamburger wrapped up in a piece of paper or maybe in a cardboard box, or you drive through and you pick up your burger that way. And then you've got casual dining, which is the Spur sort of concept, where families go and can have a choice from a big menu. Then you've got this thing called fast casual, which you're introducing us to this evening. Yeah. What is fast casual? How does fast casual fit into that mix?
Fast casual generally sits in between the two. So it sits in between quick QSR and casual dining. But because it's a newer entrant into the market in the last decade, the food is prepared more from scratch. So you tend to have a pricing model of between quick service restaurants and casual dining, cheaper than casual dining, but generally the quality of the food is better than casual dining. So you're sitting at what we target is a 45% takeaway and a 55% sit down. So you can go there with a mate and have a craft beer and a burger, or alone on the run and a craft beer and a burger, or you can have a shake, or you can get a takeaway.
What is it about the burger market as well? Because suddenly everybody's gone burger mad. There are just so many concepts in the market, and we saw Kevin Hedderwick just in the last 2 weeks go off to the UK to go and buy a whole big fat burger business. Natasha Sideris, who created Tasha's, is bringing an Australian ribs and burgers concept to South Africa. The category clearly is quite fertile hunting ground.
I think it has been for years, but I do think that South Africa has been surviving on a really plastic product with regards to a lot of the major fast food chains out there. And I think that as our middle class, I don't want to say matures, because hopefully it will start growing again if the economy grows, but as their palates mature and they're becoming a little bit more discerning, they're enjoying more from scratch fast food cooking, and obviously a lot of these brands that Tasha and them are bringing in is more gourmet experience brand. But yeah, I think burgers are like the Coca-Cola of food, because it's eaten from the wealthy to the low incomes.
Your training then is through the Spur business, and so you know the guys well, and you communicated with them before you went off on your own. They liked the concept that you created and they bought a stake in it. Do you have control, or do they?
They bought 51%.
Okay.
But we did have a good agreement that there were certain parts of the business that I want to have control over, so we can keep the essence of what we've got without going down that road of making it too plastic. And it is difficult. You're dealing with franchisees. And but you also don't want to get into a situation where it becomes a mass-produced plastic product. Yeah. So I've gone the notion that human beings strive for perfection, but we identify with imperfection. And I like the little nuances of maybe having a different guacamole in Durban than what you do have up here. Yeah. Something beautiful about that. Even though it's fast food, there's something awesome about having a little bit of artisanal in it.
No,
So,
but
there's
those
certain
are the
controls
global
that
trends as well. It's about having, you want the certainty. If you go through a small town in the Free State, the Spur's the Spur and the Goodie Burger is going to be the Goodie Burger. You've got a rough idea of how it's going to come. In the same way, if you go into any franchise, if you go into McDonald's in Moscow, you've got an idea that's going to be fairly similar to the McDonald's on the street corner here in Santon. In the same way, if you go into RocoMamas in Durban, you want an idea of some level of consistency.
100%. You know, I think that there's a personality to a brand, and then there's the recipes, which is the product of the brand that's important. But there are many touch points to it.
How do you create a franchise concept in 18 months to go from 3, that's the training that you do, you learn about your own brand by then, to 46 stores within 18 months? That's a huge rollout.
You know, Bruce, I think that I spent a lot of time open closes in the first RocoMamas. 8 months I was there, open close. And listening to...
In restaurant speak, you mean you're there when the front door opens and you're there when it closes late at night?
And 7 days a week. Just to understand the customer.
Is the customer fundamentally different to the Spur customer? It's younger, it's trendier, the Spur is family?
My target market's always been the millennial, and also now, in the last year or so, focusing on the alpha generation, which is Generation Z, the under 20s. So from the outset, I designed the way the product gets presented and the lighting in the businesses and that for the Instagram
But the
market.
space is bright, the ceilings are high, the environment is, I hate the word modern because people used that in the 70s too, but it is more of a 21st century feel than perhaps the more old school Spur feel.
Yes, I wanted that for the customer, but obviously when I first opened, I didn't have all those touch points. I've added them on. And if you look at the success of a platform like Instagram, social media, it's important to let your product fit into that environment, because Instagram is word of mouth for customers. And so it's Twitter.
And this when I read the introduction, my producers, it's so nicely written, but they're millennial types, you see. The most Instagrammed burger. So what? You take pictures of a hamburger, big deal. But the reality is social media has changed people's social dynamics completely. People do take pictures of food and do share those images with their friends, and there is your billboard.
And it's honesty. It's truth. You know, I think that what advertising does,
until one day the guacamole causes the burger to fall apart, and that's the truth you don't want to expose, but that's the risk you face.
I don't know. I like a bit of disruption in that, and it tends to be quite edgy, you know. So, but I think that, like for instance, we take photographs of all our burgers in store. So when I do our food shots, they're in store and they are not touched with any form of making them fancy and that. What the customer gets, I want on that photograph, and it's part of my ethos, because I'm tired of the way advertising dresses up poor products, and then customers have to suffer with this. You know, advertising, I think, makes a lot of mediocre businesses successful. And it's wrong. And the Instagram
that's a good line. It's a good line. Sorry, say it again. Advertising makes a lot of mediocre businesses successful. That's punchy.
Yeah. And I think that the millennials and the youth of today with Instagram, they're in control.
Yeah.
They're in total control. So we can't lie. And that's important for me. And from the outset, by spending those open-close shifts in the business, I started understanding the touch points of how, without changing what you want to set out to do, because we you know, you obviously, for me, why I got into this was I've got teenage daughters, and I realised
you want to know where they're going out at night, so you create the space for them.
Yeah, but we also didn't grow up on all this plastic that's been, you know, food-wise. You know, it's very simple. What I'm doing is I'm providing a fast food product that is made from scratch, from real ingredients, fresh ingredients. And I wanted to do it for their generation, and that's why I did it. And from the outset, I had that in that vision.
We're seeing a lot of South African food concepts being exported. Natasha Cederis is taking Tasha's into the Middle East. Mug and Bean, Ben from Malta took Mug and Bean into the Middle East as well. I suspect you might follow that well-trodden route.
We're opening Oman next week.
Oman next week. What is it about that part of the world that is attractive to somebody like you? From a food concept point of view?
You know, obviously the franchisee that's taking it was in South Africa looking at all different types of concepts, and we've been in negotiations with them for quite a while. And now we're building the shop. We're also building one in Saudi Arabia. We're also looking at Abu Dhabi. I think it appealed to the franchisee. So obviously we are involved. Spur Africa will be involved in the setup and the operation sides of the business. But we'll have to see how it goes. But I think that it is Oman's quite interesting because we are on the beachfront and it's next to the cinemas and it's quite Mediterranean and it's a beautiful looking country. I'm interested. Saudi Arabia is a totally different kettle of fish, design-wise, the store design, what music you can play, if you can play music. We're navigating it. Let's see.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really cool adventure, really, to be going on, because if it doesn't work in Saudi, it's not going to break you.
No.
And if it doesn't work, well, you can move on.
100%, and we're having fun at that. But I do think that if you have people from Saudi Arabia in South Africa and it worked for them, and they've got the right infrastructure and the passion for what they do, they can get it to work.
Do you keep up this incredible pace of development from 3 to 46 in 18 months? Do we see you at 100 this time next year?
No, I think, we have cannibalized on ourselves in certain regions. Not badly, but we've slowed down so we can rather get traction. And I think that we're now being a lot more selective with site selection, and we're turning down a lot of sites. We've obviously got a lot of growth into Africa where we've got quite a few sites coming up. Mauritius is being built.
And you'll go into the waterfront area, no doubt, in the capital city in Port Louis. Is that where you'll be alongside the Wimpies and everybody else?
Yeah. Alongside the other brands. And because that's where people go. They migrate to places where they're going to eat, and they go to places that I suppose they know. So unfortunately, that's what 80% of the populace does. There's 20% that will go out into the side roads of
take the
a
chances,
foreign, So, but I think the growth will come from there. But obviously, we've got a lot of, and we're also concerned about the commodities in South Africa and the mining towns. So we're turning down a lot of sites and saying wait and see approach to see what the economy does before we jump in.
But you've grown from almost nothing to 46 through a practically zero growth environment.
Yeah.
And you've still settled, you've still grown a business in that environment. That's amazing.
Thank God.
Or maybe there's some hard work too.
Well, it's hard work, and we've had a lot of fun at doing that. And we've got a lot of successful businesses, and it is now on to really, for me, the last couple of months has been to focus on the operational side of the business, which is great having a partner like Spur, and getting into the marketing side of the business, how we want to, keep that energy and the essence of the brand alive, but even in the mainstream media, because I've got to spend the franchisees' marketing money as
absolutely.
well. So I may be, I don't want to say anti-advertising, but I'm finding different routes of advertising by spending. So I'm excited in this part of it, but I think that we've got quite a few more to open, even in South Africa.
Well, I think it's exciting times. Brian Aldrich, who is the founder and the co-owner of RocoMamas, he sold 51%, of course, to Spur Corporation about 18 months ago, and has seen an explosion in the number of outlets, also expanding into parts of the Middle East as well. Other burger joints, and no joints at all on the next Money Makers. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll join you again next time. Bye-bye.